The afternoon sun streamed through the wide kitchen windows, spilling gold over the marble countertops I'd scrubbed and polished for years. Every corner of this house held a memory: Daniel's muddy shoes by the door after football practice, the smell of my late husband's coffee, laughter echoing down the hallway. It was our home, built with time, sacrifice, and patience. Now Daniel sat across from me, his posture too straight, his expression rehearsed. His wife, Emily, perched beside him, legs crossed, manicured fingers tracing the edge of her expensive handbag. Something in her calm, expectant smile made my stomach twist. "Mom," Daniel began, his voice measured, almost businesslike. "We need to talk about the house." I looked up from my teacup, already uneasy. "What about it?" He exchanged a quick glance with Emily before continuing. "You've had this place for, what, 30 years? It's too big for you now. Emily and I have been thinking, we could really make use of it. You know, start a family, keep it in the family name." The room went silent except for the soft ticking of the wall clock. I felt the words settle in the air, heavy and cold. "I'm sorry, what are you saying?" I asked, though deep down, I already knew. He smiled faintly, like he was offering me a logical deal. "I mean, it's time to pass it down. You've done enough. Emily deserves more than the tiny apartment we're in. She deserves a real home, one that reflects what I'll be able to give her." Emily nodded, her lips curling in satisfaction. "You could move somewhere smaller, more manageable. It would be easier for you," she added sweetly, as though she were doing me a favor. My chest tightened. I looked around the kitchen, the faded curtains, the framed photo of Daniel as a boy with jam on his cheeks, and it hit me how easily they were erasing everything I'd built. "Deserves more than me," I whispered, barely hearing my own voice. Neither of them answered. The air grew thick. The sunlight on the walls no longer felt warm, it burned. "Deserves," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady, though something inside me was trembling. Daniel shifted in his chair, leaning back like he was preparing for an argument he'd already decided to win. Emily folded her arms, her expression cool, as if she were watching a negotiation unfold, not a son talking to his mother. Daniel's tone hardened. "Yes, Mom, deserves. Emily has worked hard her whole life, and I want her to have the kind of home she's always dreamed of. We're not asking for a handout, we're family. You've lived your life. You're comfortable. Why not let us build our future here?" My fingers gripped the edge of the table. "You think this house just appeared here, Daniel?" I asked quietly. "You think it fell from the sky?" He sighed, impatient. "I know you worked hard, but it's not like you'll be around forever. It's just practical." "Practical," I cut in sharply. "Practical is saving for a roof instead of buying a new car. Practical is working double shifts to keep this place when your father got sick. This house," I said, my voice breaking a little, "wasn't built out of convenience. It was built out of love, sacrifice, and faith that you would grow up to understand that." For a moment, I thought he'd soften, but instead, he looked down, avoiding my eyes. "Emily and I could raise our kids here. You wouldn't want your grandchildren growing up in a cramped apartment, would you?" My heart clenched. "What I want," I said slowly, "is for my son to stand on his own 2 feet. Not to tear down what his parents built because it's easier." Emily gave a low laugh, shaking her head. "You make it sound like we're stealing, when it's really just the next step. You should be happy we even want to stay in this old place." Her words hit harder than I expected. The old place. She didn't see the memories, the laughter, the nights of struggle, only square footage and a property value. I stood up, my chair scraping the floor. "Daniel," I said softly, "this house was never about money. It was about family, but maybe I'm realizing that not everyone here values the same thing." The silence that followed felt colder than winter. Emily's voice suddenly rose, slicing through the quiet like a knife. "You're unbelievable," she shouted, her cheeks flushed with anger. "You'd rather die in this dusty old place than help your own son start a family. What kind of mother does that?" I blinked, stunned. The venom in her words was sharper than I ever imagined she was capable of. My son didn't even look at me, he just pressed his lips together, eyes darting to the floor. The silence between us was louder than her screaming. "Emily, please," I said, my voice trembling, "this isn't your decision to make." She took a step forward, arms crossed, chin lifted defiantly. "No, it's not my decision, but it should be. You've had your time, your memories, your husband, your life. Why should you cling to this place like it's the only thing that gives you worth?" Her words hit me like a slap. My throat went dry. I looked to Daniel, waiting for him to defend me, to tell her she was out of line, but he didn't. He just exhaled heavily and muttered, "Emily, stop," though his tone was weak, almost apologetic. That was the moment something broke inside me. Not anger, just a deep, hollow ache. The little boy I'd raised, who used to bring me daisies from the garden and promise he'd buy me a castle one day, was gone. In his place sat a man who thought love came with price tags. I steadied my hands on the back of the chair. "You think I'm selfish," I said quietly. "But you've forgotten who held you when you were sick, who skipped meals so you could have more, who stayed up through storms praying the roof wouldn't leak. This house isn't about me, it's about what I built so you'd have something to believe in." Daniel finally looked up, guilt flickering in his eyes. But Emily rolled hers, muttering, "So dramatic." I took a long breath and felt the calm return, sharp and cold. "If this is how you speak to me," I said, straightening my back, "then maybe I've spoiled you far more than I thought. Maybe it's time you learn what it really means to earn something, not just take it." For a moment, nobody moved. The air felt heavy, thick with everything unsaid. Then I turned away, leaving them in the kitchen, the same kitchen that had once smelled of birthday cakes and laughter, now silent except for the faint ticking of the clock that had outlasted every argument before this one. The next morning, the house felt too quiet, the kind of silence that seeps into the walls and presses against your chest. I sat at the kitchen table, a cup of cold coffee beside me, staring out at the backyard where Daniel used to play. His laughter used to fill these mornings. Now all that remained was the faint echo of it in a hollow ache that wouldn't fade. After hours of sitting there, I picked up the phone and called my lawyer, Mr. Graham. My voice didn't tremble this time. "I'd like to make some changes to my will," I said firmly. He didn't ask why. Maybe he could hear the exhaustion, the resolve in my tone. When the papers were ready a few days later, I read every line carefully before signing. I made sure it was clear. The house would go to a local charity that builds homes for families in need, people who would love it, fill it with hope, and treat it as more than just an asset. It felt right. Painful, yes, but right. That evening, I sat by the window when I heard the crunch of tires on the driveway. Daniel's car. He came storming up the path, his face tight with anger. Emily wasn't with him this time. He burst through the door without knocking. "Mom, what the hell is this?" he demanded, waving a folded envelope in his hand. "Emily says you've changed your will. You're cutting me out of our home." I met his glare with quiet calm. "It's not our home anymore, Daniel," I said. "It's mine, and I've chosen to give it where it will do the most good." His jaw clenched. "You'd rather give it to strangers than your own son. What kind of mother does that?" I stood slowly, walking toward him. "A mother who spent her life giving everything she had," I said softly. "And now I'm giving the last thing I can, not to greed, but to good." He froze, the anger on his face faltering for just a moment. I reached into a drawer and handed him a second envelope. "This one's for you," I said. He hesitated before opening it. Inside was a letter, my handwriting, simple and steady. "Daniel, this house was never meant to be a trophy. It's a reminder that love, sacrifice, and work build more than walls, they build people. If you ever remember that, maybe one day, you'll build something even greater for yourself." He stared at the letter for a long time, his expression unreadable. "You really mean this?" he whispered. "I do," I said. "Because sometimes the hardest lesson a mother can teach her son is when to say no." For the first time in years, I saw something shift in his eyes, not anger, but confusion. Maybe even shame. He turned to leave, but before he reached the door, he paused. "You've changed," he muttered. "No," I said quietly. I finally remembered who I was before I started giving everything away. And when the door closed behind him, the house didn't feel empty anymore, it felt peaceful, like it was finally standing for something again. Weeks passed in a strange, aching quiet. The days stretched long and still, filled with soft routines, morning tea by the window, the hum of the old radio, the creak of the stairs that had carried 3 decades of memories. Sometimes I'd catch myself glancing at the driveway, half expecting Daniel's car to appear, even though I knew it wouldn't. I told myself I had done the right thing. I had to. But every night when I turned off the lights, the shadows in the hall whispered memories, Daniel's childhood laughter, his first steps, his tiny hand gripping mine. No mother forgets those things, no matter how deep the hurt runs. It was almost sunset one evening when I heard a knock at the door, hesitant, unsure. I hesitated too, my heart catching in my throat. When I opened it, Daniel was standing there, alone. His eyes were red, his face drawn. The arrogance that once coated every word was gone, replaced by something quieter. Something human. "Mom," he said softly. "Can I come in?" For a moment, I just stared at him. The boy who had once demanded my house looked nothing like the man in front of me now. He held a small bouquet of wildflowers, awkwardly arranged, the stems uneven. The same kind he used to pick from the backyard when he was 7. He stepped inside, his voice low. "I've been thinking about everything I said. About what I became. You were right, I lost myself chasing things that didn't matter." I didn't say anything at first. I just watched him, saw the remorse in the slump of his shoulders, the tremor in his voice. Then, gently, I reached out and touched his arm. "Sit down, Daniel." He did, his hands fidgeting with the flowers. "Emily left," he murmured after a pause. "She said she didn't sign up for this." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out, she only ever wanted the house, not the home." A deep silence filled the room. Then he looked up, eyes glistening. "I'm sorry, Mom, for the things I said. For forgetting what you taught me. I don't care about the house anymore. I just want to come home." My throat tightened. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Then I smiled, tears spilling freely now. "You never left, Daniel," I whispered. "You just lost your way for a while." I stood and opened my arms, and he stepped into them without hesitation. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt the weight lift from my heart. Outside, the last light of day poured through the windows, painting the walls in gold. The same walls that had seen anger, love, loss, and now, forgiveness. The house wasn't just standing, it was breathing again. And as we sat there, mother and son, side by side in the home we both loved in very different ways, I realized something profound. Sometimes you have to lose everything, pride, comfort, even peace, to remember what truly makes a house a home.